Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. The overnight incursion of nearly 20 Russian drones into Polish airspace marks a dangerous escalation in the war on Ukraine. Poland and NATO allies say the move was deliberate, a probe and a warning from Moscow. Yet, the US reaction under President Trump was delayed and muted, raising concerns about Washington's resolve. After a call between President Trump and Poland's President Karol Nawrocki produced no substantial results, questions loom. To discuss this, we welcome Ivana Stradner. She is a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and a regular contributor. Ivana, welcome back. Thank you for taking the time as always.
Always pleasure.
Thank you. So let's start with your interpretation of this incursion. 19 drones is the latest figure that we have. You know, it's probably not an accident, but at the same time, it's not a huge number either. So what does this mean?
We have to understand how Russia thinks about the war. And whether we like it or not, Russia is waging a new generation of warfare, which includes numerous active measures and sabotage activities. So whether we like it or not, Russia is already at war with the West. Just earlier this year, in June, NATO member states gathered together and reaffirmed their commitment to Article 5. Even President Trump openly supported that. And Putin said, why not? Let's challenge NATO. So this was, I believe, the stage one. More similar activities are on the horizon because Russia has been candid about its desire to show that NATO is a paper tiger. Think about this. You're right. 19 drones, it's not 19,000 drones, but nevertheless, powerful enough to test NATO. I'm very pleased to see how Poland reacted and NATO's commitment in that sense. But nevertheless, we had to use fighter jets and spend lots of money just to go after several drones. Number two thing that really worries me a lot, which is that Putin just finished his meeting with China. And there is no way that Putin would venture on something like this without the support coming from Beijing. And the third thing is, let's also not forget that Putin has been waging a hybrid war against Poland coming from Belarus. So he can always claim plausible deniability and to claim, well, it has nothing to do with me. It has a lot to do actually with Belarus. And make no mistake, without a very strong Poland, there is no strong Ukraine. And Putin has been trying to show not only that NATO is a paper tiger, but also to test Poland and other countries in the region to make sure that they do not respond. So the bad news is that more similar activities are on the horizon. The good news is that at least in your part of the world, countries are gathering together and they're very much aware of what's going on.
Yes, I mean, I want to ask you about that specifically. How would you assess the response of the fighter jets, the international force of fighter jets that met these drones? Yes, it was an expensive response, but at the same time, was it effective, and did it, if you like, save face and say, well, actually, we are prepared to fire a shot?
You're absolutely right. This really saved face, and that's something that Putin has been trying to test. And I'm very glad to see the result coming from Poland. So that's a step in the right direction. Article 4 that has been, on the horizon in NATO is also a step in the right direction in terms of consultations. But another point that I want to raise, which is what is Article 5 nowadays? Putin doesn't have to use tanks and jets in any of the Western capitals. All he has to do is to plot sabotage activities, something that has been going on for some time across Europe. In Poland, for example, Putin has been waging also hybrid war through weaponizing migrants. What happened just recently with drones, there are multiple cyber activities. Putin has been plotting assassinations across the West. There are numerous similar covert shadow war operations. So we have to understand how Putin is waging that war. And I do truly hope that the West is going to bring even more resolve. There are ways that we can do this. Western intelligence should declassify Russian cover operations and to expel Russian intelligence officers from their countries. So that's number one thing. Number two, there are still very serious ways that we can respond, and we do have cards, which is severe sanctions on Russia. And the most important thing is, if Putin is trying to bring war in the rest of Europe, maybe it's time also to rethink Putin calculus and to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles to defend itself. Because Putin will only be stopped until when he's stopped. And make no mistake, as I mentioned, this cover shadow war is going to continue. So saving the face and showing resolve is a step in the right direction, but we have to put our act seriously, because I'm very concerned what's happening in Poland as well as in other in the Baltic states.
Right.
Because Putin, all he has to do is to wage a war right below the threshold of war and thinking that we are not going to respond.
Ivana, does this mean that maybe the definition of Article 5 needs to be reviewed, so that a hybrid war such as this and, something below a full kinetic war would fall under Article 5 protection?
You're absolutely right. NATO was founded when we had very different threats, when we had very different weapons. We have to interpret Article 5 in accordance to reality on the ground. And according to Russian military doctrine, we are talking about a new generation of warfare. I do not foresee anytime soon that Russia has to fight war with Europe with tanks and jets. Putin has been waging already a war against Europe, what Russian military calls a new generation of warfare, through sabotage activities, different influence operations, and numerous other examples that I just mentioned across the West. So it's past time for NATO to rethink Article 5. I have no doubt that NATO understands very well how Russia is waging the war, but the problem is that risk aversion is rewarded in the West. And that's precisely why countries such as China and Russia are successfully engaging in a war against democracies, because it's very hard to wage hybrid war as a democracy.
Right.
But oftentimes we really have to rethink a hybrid war.
Now, it sounds to me, Ivana, you're saying that basically NATO needs to produce a united front, a unified front, and a well thought out strategy to reflect the situation today. Difficult to do that without President Trump coming along and supporting it strongly. Why isn't he?
You're absolutely right. Just think about this. In 2023, a strong Russian ally, Serbia, attacked 90 NATO peacekeepers. 90. 3 of them lost their limbs. What did NATO do? Nothing. So President Trump openly supported collective security in June, and that was a step in the right direction. And I truly hope that in the coming days, he's going to not only send a clear signal to Russia in terms of statements, but also it's past time to impose very severe sanctions and to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles. Because this war in Ukraine, it's not only about Ukraine. This is truly a war that is going to define the future of a global system. And we have countries such as Russia and China that are collaborating together and trying to create what I like to call a multipolar world. And that's precisely what Russia wanted to show yesterday, that Russia is still a great power and willing to challenge NATO. So I was very, very pleased to see that Poland didn't fall for that trick and actually showed power.
Right. Well, we look forward to a stronger response by President Trump. President Nawrocki of Poland has, had a phone conversation with President Trump. Very little is known about it, but if you were to take a guess, what do you think they talked about?
I don't know what they talked about, but I am quite certain that President Trump is losing his patience with Russia. He's seeing now through Putin's actions, and he already announced severe sanctions on Russia. When they are going to happen, I really don't know that. But Putin has been trying to cross Washington's red line, and I truly hope that this administration will follow through on its promises.
Right. Now, in the last minute or so that we have left, Ivana, Poland has closed its border with Belarus, and that includes rail traffic, which affects trade coming from China through this crossing. Now, the Chinese finance minister is coming to Poland for a meeting. Is there a quid pro quo? In other words, can we use this opportunity to get China to put some pressure on Putin?
I doubt that China can put a pressure on Putin because China has its own interest for Putin to escalate further, because China is more than happy for Putin to wage a conflict against the West. So we spend time, energy, and resources defending ourselves, while at the same time, China is preparing for its own global conquest. So make no mistake, Russia and China are cooperating together, and they are not our allies.
So don't count on China to put any pressure on Putin and his prosecution of the war. Ivana Stradner, as always, thank you so much for your analysis and for taking the time to share it with our audience. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, though. As always, lots more coming up. Goodbye.